Hello, today we're going to make a Tilly doll with yarn hair instead of felt hair. Here's the original Tilly with her felt hair. Here's Isabel, who has yarn hair with a centre parting. And here's Ellie, who has yarn hair with a side parting. You can use this method for any handmade doll, but if you want to use the Tilly pattern, which I'm showing here, I'll put the link in the description below. Let's get making. Instead of using the face and the hair patterns, we're just going to use the back of the head pattern and cut two. Embroider the face, sew the two pieces together on the wrong side, turn right side out and stuff and close the gap. To make the hair, take a piece of card 9 by 12 inches, 23 by 20 centimetres, and just cut two notches at the end. The first one's just to hold the wool steady while you start wrapping, and the second one is just to hold it steady if you need to stop while you get more wool off the skein or anything. I've wrapped it about 20 times with this yarn. It depends on the thickness of your yarn really, but 20 to 30 times will probably be sufficient. And when you're wrapping, don't do it too tightly because then it gets very difficult to work along the edge when you're stitching. Just do it nice and loosely. So that's wrapped and ready to stitch. Then take some matching thread and just push your yarn together so that there are no gaps, and take a back stitch along one edge of the card. Stitch very carefully to make sure that all the yarn is caught in the stitching, and you might have to go backwards and forwards a few times and just check that it's all holding together. This 12-inch length of card gives hair which is just below waist length on the doll, so it looks like that when it's done. You can make the hair longer or shorter by adjusting the length of the card. So I've stitched along this edge, and then I'm now going to cut along this edge of the card. And remove the card. Now we have a length of hair with the seam going down the middle, and that's all holding together. So now we take the head and we want to position the seam of the yarn across the seam of the head, and you can just stretch the wool or bunch it together. Take it to just about opposite the eyebrow, where the eyebrow would be. I didn't do any eyebrows on this one, but you can if you wish. So I'm just going to pin that there so that the seam of the yarn lines up with the seam on the head, and then the same on the other side. And then with the matching thread again, just stitch along the seam. So the hair is stitched onto the head across that seam now, and on the back I've just laid it down the back of the head and stitched it down across the bottom to cover the back of the head. You can use the ends of the darts in the head to help you position the stitching line. So then fold the rest of the hair over the top like that, and down over the other hair, so that thickens it up nicely and covers the felt. And then just again stitch across the back. Now we're going to make the front of the hair. Take a piece of yarn twice the length of the card and lay it across the short edge. Wrap the yarn 20 to 30 times around the length of the card, trapping this loose piece underneath. Now you're going to cut along this end of the card. So if you want the hair parting to be in the centre, bring this parting up to the top. If you want a side parting, bring it down slightly so that the hair is longer on one side than the other. And then when the parting's on the side, the ends of the hair will be roughly level. We'll just do a centre parting for this doll. So bring it to the other end and then just knot this thread. Tie a couple of knots in it, and because it's twice the length, the two ends will just go to make 2 more strands of hair. So then we just cut the other ends. And that's our front hair. So now put the front of the hair onto the head, just with the parting up against the back of the hair there, and then stitch it there at the parting. And then take the side of the hair and twist it a few times and put it next to the seam of the back of the hair, and then just stitch along next to it there. The wool's quite bulky, so just stitch backwards and forwards a few times to make sure each strand is caught down into the seam. And finally, to prevent this sort of gap happening, you can just take a thread and sew the back and the front of the hair together, just stitch up, catching some from each side. I've started doing this side, so just put the thread into the yarn on the front hair and on the back hair, just loosely stitching them together. And you can just go into the head a little bit as well to make it more secure, and it just brings the front and the back together and stops that gap happening. So when that's done, you can just trim the hair all one length if you like, or leave it different lengths, but just trim along the bottom and tidy it up. Here's the finished doll with her hair styled. I hope you found this helpful. If you'd like to see more doll making and felt craft videos, please subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!